Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Heart and Hustle, Visionary Healers, Movers, and Shakers. I am your host, Paulette Rees-Denis, here to bring you magic makers from around the globe, people who are creating change, who have small businesses, large businesses, hobbies, but they are creating the life of their dreams. And that, my friends, is what living is all about. So let us know how you like this episode. Please subscribe, and we'll see you there. Thanks for joining. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Heart and Hustle. We are gathering a bunch of visionaries, healers, movers, shakers, people who are creating change in the world, creating change in their lives, creating the life of their dreams. Will they bring you magic and purpose and education and healing and spiritual connection and all of these beautiful things that everyone creates in the world, because we need each other, for one thing. And there is a beautiful big circle, and we're all part of that big circle. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Paulette Rees-Denis. I am your magic maker, your movement motivator, passion instigator, life coach, author, writer, poet, dancer. I run a global dance company. I've been running this beautiful interview series now going on 6 years, which is so freaking amazing. And I love meeting all of you. I love sharing all of you with each other. I love inspiring and being inspired and seeing what people are creating in the world. And being able to offer that to all of you out in the Heart and Hustle audience is also such a gift and so beautiful. And today we've got a duo. Not too often I have a duo, but I've got Audrey Kalman and Jennifer Browdy here with me today. Now, Audrey and I go back several years. Never met in person.
That is true. We have to remedy that sometime, but
we've done a lot of writing together, and she's very inspirational and awesome. And Jennifer is her partner, and you guys are going to have to tell us a little bit more about how you have combined forces. So how about that?
That seems like a good place to start. Want me to?
Yes, please.
Jennifer, you chime in, because it really is both of our stories coming together. Well, Jennifer and I have known each other. I'm sorry, Paulette, we have you beat. We've known each other since we were 6 years old.
Oh, no way.
We go way, way back. Yep. And we share since then have shared so many passions and parts of our lives. Writing was probably one of the first of our passions that we shared and loved together. And we both began writing at very young ages. And we grew up fairly near each other. So we, in the country, well, Jennifer was half in the city, half part in the country. But
okay, so where was that?
That was in New York State. So
okay.
About 2.5 hours north of New York City was where I lived in the country. And we were entranced and enthralled and in love with nature. And so I think those two things, have run through both of our lives and kept us connected to each other. And then I don't know, Jennifer, maybe you can help me out here. It's hard to keep the years straight, but I think it was 2016 we were talking on the phone. We've stayed in touch over the years. And by the way, I should say she's on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast.
Okay, yeah, I wondered where you were, because
Yeah.
you're in Central California, Northern
I'm
California?
in Northern California. Yeah, just north of San Francisco.
Okay, and Jennifer, where are you?
I'm in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're separated by this physical distance, but we started talking about working together somehow. We always thought that would be a really fun and interesting way to stay connected and get more connected. And at the time, I've had many careers. I was working as a birth doula, which is someone who helps women who are having babies, not in a medical sense, but in a emotional support and physical kind of way. And I don't really remember how we got on the topic, but we started talking about the resonances and similarities between helping someone give birth physically and give birth to a creative project.
Ooh, that's so juicy. Yeah.
Yeah. And, the more we thought about it, the more metaphors came up and the more parallels we saw. And so, with this idea that we wanted to work together, we came up with the idea for a workshop called Birth Your Truest Story. And we conceived of it, ha ha ha, as a 9-month, ha ha ha, a 9-month series where we would meet once a month and help people get basically from the spark of an inspirational idea to a completed project at the end of the 9 months.
And so how long ago was that?
I think it was 2016. I think we did the first workshop in 2017, and we actually did it in person. We did it out here in Northern California at Book Passage, a very well-known bookstore near me. And it was great. We had, it was a small workshop, but we really got a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and we kind of worked out some of the kinks in it. And then we decided to offer it online. So we did that for a few years, which was great because we got people, obviously bigger audience, people from all over. And of course, we were online already during the pandemic, so that was helpful. But the thing that we found people, it was still the same format of the 9 months, and then you're done and you kind of move on. But we really found that people were craving some kind of community around, staying in touch with the workshop participants and staying in touch with us. So we kind of did a little pivot shift, and we established in 2021 the Birth Your Truest Story online writers community. So we kind of made this bigger container for fostering community and connection among writers and being able to also offer, classes and workshops to people.
And so I met you when you were assisting or working with Albert.
Yeah, so that was I think this craving for community that people have has been, I think it's always been there, but I think the pandemic really intensified it.
Absolutely.
And it bubbled up, and everybody became suddenly aware of how much they need connection. So I had joined Albert Flynn de Silver, who's another writer, and meditator and meditation teacher, had started I don't even remember how I found out about him, but he had a weekly meditation
bugs flying around here. Sorry.
Oh.
Like, oh God.
Yeah, we are being interrupted by the flora and fauna.
Sorry.
That's okay. So he had started this meditation group, which I joined, and then he also did writing, and then he started this whole writing community. So I actually assisted him for a couple of years before.
And that's when I met you, yeah.
And that's where I met Paulette. Yeah. So that's how we got here to.
I can't believe you guys have known each other since you were 6. That's just incredible.
Yeah.
And that you're still on this similar path together. So Jennifer, tell us a little bit about your story.
My story. Well, I started my professional life in journalism and worked as a journalist while I was in college as an intern, and then as a reporter and a staff writer and an editor and a managing editor and all of that in New York for a while, and then went back to grad school, got my PhD, and became a professor. When you get a PhD, you're kind of, that's a professor track, which I didn't really realize at the time. When I started the degree, I really just wanted to, my degree is in comparative literature, and I really just wanted to read great literature from all over the world and study languages. And, I wasn't really thinking about teaching, but by the end of the PhD, which took me 8 years,
wow,
I was ready. I was a graduate teaching assistant pretty early on. So I've been teaching literature and writing, and more recently, leadership and public speaking, different kinds of communications. I've been really interested in social justice and environmental justice, so I teach leadership and public speaking for social and environmental justice, advocacy writing, and then, of course,
and where are you teaching that at? Are you teaching that online or privately or in college?
I've been at Bard College at Simon's Rock, which is my alma mater and Audrey's. We went to we got our BAs at that college.
You stuck
In
together all those years.
Yes, in English and writing, and for me, journalism. So I went back there after I got my PhD. I went back there to teach, and that was 30 years ago. So I also taught for 9 years at SUNY Albany as a lecturer, and my scholarly specialty has been international, women's literature of what I was calling resistance. I have a couple of edited collections, women writing resistance in Latin America, in Africa. I study women's writing from the Middle East and Asia as well. So lots of scholarly work, and then memoir. I really have landed on memoir as something that helps me and other people get closer to their own voices. And that's what I like about
So
the
you're
birth of
teaching memoir or you're writing your own memoir?
both,
Both.
both. So I published my own memoir in 2017, I guess, and I called it a purposeful memoir. And I've been teaching purposeful memoir, so memoir that's has a greater purpose than just telling your life story. You tell your life story because you think it will be a benefit to others in some way. And so that has had a lot of resonance with people. I've been doing a lot of workshops in different places, a lot of conference presentations, and lots of outside of academia kind of teaching in connection with the memoir work, including at Birth Your Truest Story. And one of the things that Audrey and I did early on at Birth Your Truest Story is we developed some self-paced courses, which people can take, in different topics. So some of my classes are there as self-paced classes, and we developed a 9-month series, Birth Your Truest Story, which are 9 separate, modules leading you through.
Cool. Awesome.
Mhm.
And so, okay, so then working together with this, Birth Your Truest Story is again how I refound Audrey. And of course, we're having a great, a great weekly gathering. Just super powerful and super fabulous. But tell me, what are your dreams together for this venue?
Well, let's see. In a way, I think my dream is being realized, because I too have had this craving for community. But apart from that, I've realized I also, as Jennifer alluded to, went studied literature and writing, have a degree in creative writing and a degree in journalism. Worked early on. One of my many careers was in journalism, and then went on to corporate communications and marketing and tech and many things. Then became a doula. But I discovered along the way, although I've never been, I didn't go the PhD route to get into teaching, but I've taught many different things along the way, and discovered in myself a passion for teaching, which is interesting because my mother was a teacher at the same college we attended, and
Wow.
and also for coaching. And I came to those two things. I came to the coaching really through the doula work, and through realizing that there, again, similarities in terms of coaching someone, when they're giving birth, and coaching someone when they're attempting to, do a writing project or foster their creativity. So, I have had this desire, craving for my own community, and also what I've recently discovered is this real, just one thing that fulfills me immensely is this holding a space for other people within which they can do their work and understand things about themselves that they might not otherwise have. And so for me, the opportunity to do that, and Paulette mentioned we have these weekly, we call them community writing sessions every Friday, where we have a group of people who come together and we share a little bit about how our week has been and what we're working on, and maybe what we're struggling with or some of our triumphs. And then we are quiet together for 45 minutes and write, and then we check back in with each other. And so just, the ability to have to foster things like that, and the satisfaction of seeing people come together in community for me is just so rewarding.
Oh, isn't
And
it
then, of course,
fun?
loving to teach. I just developed a new course it's actually starts next week on. And by the way, I'm also a novelist and short story writer. So I published 3 novels and a collection of short stories. And so I have the opportunity to teach some of that on the fiction side, whereas Jennifer's memoir. So I developed a short fiction / creative nonfiction workshop that debuts next week. And it's just wonderful to have this opportunity to, think about like, oh, what would I really love to teach? I know this. And oh, by the way, I have a community of people who might be interested in this. So that for me, I feel like has been um, really rewarding. And of course, we'd love to, I'll just say one more thing, and then I'll let Jennifer jump in with her dreams for it and how it fits in with where she's going. But, I think that just continuing to grow our group of people. And I should say that it's been really interesting how, I think there are a couple of ways that you can approach, attracting participants to your community. And, one way is the sort of, I think of as the more, masculine energy kind of way, where you just kind of go out there and I've done marketing plans, and I've done, all of these things. And of course, we did that in the beginning to think about who our audience was and who we wanted to reach. But that kind of has the feel of like muscling into it, and you've gotta hustle. I mean, I know you say heart and hustle, but this is sort of the hustle part, like the masculine hustle. Like you got to go out there, but you need the heart part. And that to me is sort of how when we've brought that in, that's when we've really blossomed, and we've sort of just organically attracted the kind of people that get along with each other. And we have a lot of people who are on their own spiritual journeys. I think we have like 5 shamans in our
I
group.
know, it's really amazing.
It's crazy. We just sort of attract people who, and they're all writers or creative in some way, and want to, combine those parts of their lives.
So beautiful. Yes, absolutely. I mean, now more than ever, I think we need connection and physical connection, which is actually much harder to do than it used to be. Right now, it's easy to have connection, not easy, but easier, I should say, on Zoom or in these beautiful platforms all over the internet, right? And it's even harder to bring people together in person.
We're working on that too. We're going to have
For,
an
but
in-person.
for a lot of reasons. I mean, a lot of reasons. And I bring people together here too, where I live in person. And it's just amazing to see the reasons why people don't step outside of their house. And it's really sad.
Yeah.
But we don't need to go there. But it's interesting because that's what we're talking about, is creating community, And I mean, I've been in so many different kinds of families, so many different kinds of communities, from Harley Davidsons to tattoo worlds to belly dance worlds to writing worlds. Um, you know, all the things that I've done. I'm a chameleon of many sorts. Uh, um, and anyway, just to see the shifts and to see the changes over all these plethora of years. So anyway, bam, that's so beautiful. But I mean, I can't believe you have this great connection with each other. That's so beautiful. So Jennifer, what do you want to add to that?
Well, we have been, I agree with you that we need to go back and forth between in person and online. I think we're not going to give up online. Online is really great. It's the way we can connect with people from all over the place.
Yeah.
So, but there's something really special about in person. So last fall, we had an in-person workshop here in Massachusetts on the top of the highest mountain in Massachusetts, Mount Greylock.
Which,
And
excuse me, I just have to laugh because living in California, it's something like 3,500 feet. And it's like,
yes,
well, you
it's
know,
the highest mountain in
I know
Massachusetts.
California has a few higher peaks than that, but nonetheless, it was great. It was really fabulous.
Yeah. And we spent the day there and people came from the region, and um it was, I forget what we called that workshop, but it had the word magic in it. It was, we were trying to
Yeah, it was Magic
get
on the Mountain or something. No, it was better than that. I know it's terrible that we can't remember what it was, but
yeah,
yes.
but
Yes, you should know that.
but it was people who we had only seen online
Oh,
prior to that, so it was really great
so
to get.
people, they stepped outside of their box and they came.
Yeah, and a few people, one little group traveled like 3 or 4 hours to get there and
Sweet.
stayed overnight. So, and then Audrey and I also, I led a memoir workshop in Tuscany last spring, and Audrey came along, and
Ooh, that
so
was must have been delicious.
yeah,
So
we had
many
a small
levels.
group. That was just, I think it's really important to stimulate your creativity by getting out of your normal ruts, your normal little
But
hamster wheel of activity.
I mean, we're here for expansion. We're here for curiosity, right? We're here for
Right,
um, uh, seeing what else is out there.
right. So I have been, since the end of COVID, I've been traveling and leading some international retreats in Italy a couple times or 3 times. And then I've been doing these riding and writing workshops,
Rioting?
horseback riding
Oh,
and
rioting.
writing.
Oh, yes, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, so those have been really great. And there's something about the combination of physical, embodied activity plus writing that
Mhm.
just, it's very synergistic. And I'm sure that's true of dance,
Oh,
you
yeah. I was
know.
going to say, you're talking to a dancer here. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Moving that
right.
body.
Writers tend to spend too much time at our desks in front of the screen, and we have to, but we also have to make time to get away from it and just get into our bodies. So for me, riding is a wonderful way to do that.
So, have you been
And
riding all your life?
well, I started riding with Audrey, actually. Audrey had 2 horses as when we were
Oh,
kids.
okay.
And so that was my introduction to riding, and we took some lessons together. And I took lessons, but anyway, then I took a long time off when I was doing other things. And when my younger son left for college and I was an empty nester, I got back to riding right away. It was like instantly, that's what I want to keep doing. So I would say probably an intermediate rider at this point. I found that I had some muscle memory left over from my teenage years. I remembered some things, but of course the body is not what it was as a teenager. So, but I just love it. Yeah, it really gives me such pleasure. And so we also have been doing writing and hiking. Audrey's a big hiker,
Me too.
and
Me
I'm
too.
and I'm a big, I'm not, I'm a walker more than a hiker, but I love being out in nature. So that's, yeah, it's just, I'm also a big proponent of like bringing your notebook out in nature. I always do that. I always have my knapsack with my notebook, and I think writing outside is really important. Mhm.
Well, I love being outside. It's one reason why I moved to Southern California to the desert, um, to just be in this sacred land. Get
Where
that
are you exactly?
in Palm Springs,
Okay. hmm hmm
away from the fires right now,
Thank goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
which is horrifying. But so, okay, so I have two more questions for you guys. So, what's been the hustle? What's been hard in developing your, well, I could say your business or your publishing, or, I'd love if you had your books like sitting next to you, you could hold your books up so we could see them.
I can do that if I turn my books are close by, so I can
Yeah.
hold.
Go get them. Go get them, Audrey. Turn
It can be hard to see
off
them
that
or move
background
them.
thing. Turn off
Both
that
one.
background thing.
Yeah, I will turn my background up. Oh dear, I have two of my
Can you
books.
see?
I don't know where my third one is. Having just recently moved, it's been ridiculous. I have 8 gazillion boxes still to unpack and no idea where anything is. So, let me see. So yeah, so I'll just hold up my latest printed book, which is this book of short fiction called Tiny Shoes Dancing and Other Stories.
Sweet.
And
When did that come out?
that came out in 2018.
Okay.
And I can talk briefly. I do have a novel actually that's only online, so I can't show the cover that came out in 2020. But I can talk a little bit about the challenge of being an author these days, which Jennifer's familiar with this. I mean, she's also, not only is she an author, but she's a publisher. She has a publishing company called Greenfire Press. And so you kind of see both sides of it, the author side, the publishing side. But, as a not big name author, you face now, like 35 or 40 years ago, there was sort of one path to getting yourself published. It was very defined. It was challenging because, there was really, there were big publishing companies and there were defined ways to get into them. And there were lots of people writing. And so, it was still challenging. But what's happened in the intervening years is things, with the advent of the internet and self-publishing, where you can publish your own books, things have absolutely exploded in terms of the number of, the number of books out there, as well as, the number of people that you need to reach, and not even to mention the most recent challenge of artificial intelligence,
Oh,
putting
wow. Well, we're not even going to touch
we're
that.
not going to go there.
Could
My
be a whole
point is
other
simply
conversation.
that, there's this benefit in that you no longer have to go through the gatekeepers. But on the other hand, because you don't have to go through the gatekeepers, there are literally, I mean, I haven't looked recently, but I remember when I posted my first novel, which actually I do have the cover to that, called Dance of Souls.
Uh-huh.
And this came out in 2011. And right around then, when I was, trying to market it, and because that was self-published, I was trying to figure out, okay, well, what am I competing against? And I think I went on Amazon and I saw, oh my gosh, there's 1 million books out there. And now there's something like, I don't know, 50 million. I mean, it is just unbelievable. So with that, how do you get anybody to even hear that you have a book, never mind, buy it? So what I come back to, so I think that's one of the challenges and one of the hard things about this. And the same goes for, even like our online community. I mean, now there are, I don't know, I haven't counted, but there are just hundreds and thousands of communities
Right.
of all different kinds.
With bands and with music.
Yeah, exactly.
So it wasn't, you couldn't find a recording studio 30 years ago, and now.
Yeah, and now exactly. So what I come back to is really the small, intimate connections that we have to one another. And they don't necessarily all have to be in person, but it's really cultivating instead of going out and saying, oh, I'm going to get, 20,000 more Twitter followers, or, well, I wouldn't even do that anymore, or X or whatever, 20,000 Blue Sky followers. I'm going to reach out one-on-one to this person I met online the other day and have a conversation with them, either online, or I'm going to follow up with a phone call or a text to this person I met at a meeting, or I'm going to go to the local meeting of my local writers club and sit with person at a table and talk to them about what I'm doing. And yeah, I mean, I think, as an author, I've come to the acceptance that I am not going to be, Stephen King. I am not going to be, somebody who's ever going to sell, 1 million copies of books in 50 different languages, but that's okay. I feel like even there, I've, fulfilled my heart's desire, which I have sold books, and I have had readers come up to me and say, wow, your book really made me think, or, it really, what you were saying in that, rang so true to me, or it really helped me. And that's enough for me. I mean, I recognize that I'm in a privileged and blessed position, that I'm not making a living from selling my work as an author. So I have the luxury to do that. But that's really where I've landed on that
Okay, awesome.
particular challenge.
Yeah. How about you, Jennifer?
Yeah, well, like Audrey said, I have a small hybrid publishing company, Greenfire Press, which I started after um, many years of running a writers' festival for women. So I ran a pretty big month-long writers' festival with like 100 events in a month, Women's History Month. It was a women writers' festival, and there were such great writers, but often they were older, and older women writers have a really hard time breaking in. And yet women's biological clocks work against them because, in the early years, 20 to 40, let's say, we're often focusing on family. There's not a lot of time for writing. So I felt like Greenfire Press was a side door into publishing that I could offer people. And um, it's obviously a side door that has appealed to a lot of other people because now hybrid publishing is a thing. When I started 10 years ago, it was very new. So what I tell my authors is that you're not really publishing a book to make money at sales. I mean, you may make some money at sales, but you may not, and that can't be your entire goal because you're likely to be disappointed. But your book will open other kinds of doors for
Right,
you.
right. Which is not the way it used to be, right? I mean, book sales way back when was,
I mean, it really depends. The royalty structure at traditional press is terrible for authors. You make pennies on your
yeah,
book. There's so many middlemen who are taking bites. So Greenfire Press, I do a 50-50 split with authors, which is much more than traditional publishing for royalties. But even so, the authors who are most successful and who are making, you know, maybe a couple thousand a year in royalties, are out there speaking. They're out there doing workshops and events, and they're visible. They're online. And that comes with its own benefits and usually its own revenue streams. So it's kind of synergistic, and a book is just one part of a larger package that you're offering. And, I think we do have to have multiple revenue streams if we're trying to be writers, wear that writing hat. It's very hard to make a living
which is
just as a
exciting
writer.
on some level, but also kind of sad on some level. If you really just want to be a writer, why can't you just make it as a writer? But you got to do all these other things, all the social
Well,
media, all the blah, blah,
marketing.
blah, blah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to wear a lot of hats, and it is
It's
exhausting.
really the modern dilemma of the artist in general, I think.
Right, exactly
I
right. Yes.
I wish that we were in the times when, well, I guess it was hard even then, right? Because you'd have, patrons of the arts, and it would be, you'd be sponsored by like the Duke of something or other would, support you as you pursued your artistic life. But of course, they only did one person, right? Usually. So what happened to all the other people who were starving artists and wanted to be supported, and they just toiled away and starved? So it's always been a challenge, I think, to be a creative person in a world that honestly doesn't, I mean, to some degree we value creativity, but this is actually this one of the subjects of my the novel that I mentioned that's available only online called The Last Storyteller. And it's sort of about it's set in the near future, and it's about a time when storytelling has become only in the service of commerce. And I feel like, I mean, it was inspired by my sense that this is happening to some degree in our world, that there's storytelling of the kind that I do, which has no purpose other than to emotionally impact a reader and satisfy my desire to be creative. And then there's storytelling. I mean, I look around and I see corporate storytelling and storytelling for PowerPoint presenters, and I mean, and that's fine, and I understand that it's necessary. And if you do, as a marketer, I know if you want to reach someone, you don't just put up 6 bullet points and drone on for an hour. You do need to tell a story, but nonetheless there's this little shift happening, I see, where it's easy to tip over from that, sort of enriching the corporate world, or enriching the world of commerce, to that's the whole purpose of it. And, never mind it having any value in any other way. And so that's, yeah, it's a hard
It's a different
thing
world.
to hear. Yeah.
It's a different world.
Mhm.
Yeah. I am. I am. Jennifer just, I have my own publishing company too, but I got my master's in publishing and writing back, wow, not that long ago. I guess it was to add on the years. Anyway, um, but really, I've only really been publishing my own stuff. I have 4 books out. I'm working on my 5th book. And then lots of zines, and I did a lot of magazines and dance zines and all that kind of stuff. But okay, so just I'm going to switch subject really quick. I know we got to kind of wind this up, but what I would love to know, and this is really important, especially as creative women, what do you do for yourself for daily self-care and creative inspiration? Jennifer.
Um, well, I have been horseback riding quite a bit in the past 7 years or so. Um, Most recently 4 times a week, so
So do you
quite a bit.
have horses now by yourself, or do you go?
I've been leasing a
Mhm.
horse. I don't own a horse yet, but so riding and traveling. I lead this trip to Iceland. I've been to Iceland 3 years in a row, and I really love Iceland. In Italy, and daily, I go out in the woods here in Western Massachusetts and commune with the rocks and the trees, and so definitely getting out and moving is really important. And then just allowing myself to write freely. So I'm a big proponent of free writing, sort of as in morning pages, and
Yes.
I do that almost every day, and I really need it. If I don't get it, I get antsy.
Right? I know, me too.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I write a Substack, and that's where I can kind of blow off steam to some degree. Like my Substack often responds to current events. Like I wrote one about the LA fires recently. And then I have a second Substack where it's a sandbox for a book I'm working on um, about education. And so I think having those Substacks has been really good for me as a writer because I get feedback. I get almost instant feedback on what resonates,
Really? Yeah.
if yeah. So that's really good because I am not the kind of writer who can just like hole myself up for 3 years and write a book. I need to talk to people about it. I think that's the
Yeah,
teacher in
awesome.
me.
Okay, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
really great. That's really great to hear. I actually
Mhm.
joined Substack and I haven't done anything with it yet. I've been writing on Medium and then my own weekly blog, and then I do a lot of social media, but curious about Substack. So that's really great to hear. Great.
Mhm.
I'm glad you found that avenue for yourself. How about you, Audrey?
Well, I travel a lot less than Jennifer does, although I would like to travel more. So I think my trip to Italy last year was my first time out of the country in 35 years.
Oh my.
I know, but I'm trying to do more of that. And I think for me, my caring for myself has really evolved tremendously over the last few years. And I would say before that, I didn't really care for, like, I was very type A and I didn't understand that you have to stop and rest and recharge. And I just went and went and went and went. And then I would wonder why I was feeling so terrible and so burned. And, then I wouldn't stop until I got deathly ill and I was in bed and I couldn't do anything. So I think again, the pandemic really opened up through meditation for me, opened up this whole new world of like, oh, you don't have to move all the time. And maybe the point is to just be. And so for me, I have now evolved into a meditation practice where I meditate every day, usually at least a half an hour, 45 minutes in the morning, and sometimes again, in the afternoon. And that for me just is I don't want to say I mean, sometimes, ideas will come to me during that time, but it just gives me that space and ratchets down my nervous system so I can actually listen to my creative voice. And paired with that, though, I do have this tremendous impetus to move. So I walk every day quite a bit. I live in an urban environment, so I walk, but it's a pretty urban environment and it's fairly close to, there's nature in it. It's not like I don't know, being in the heart of Singapore or something. Well, actually, I've never been to Singapore. Maybe the heart of Singapore has nature in it too, but there are lots of trees and parks and things. And then I have belong to a hiking group here, and I try to hike at least once a week there's some beautiful places in Northern California to do, hikes at national parks and regional parks and stuff. So I do a lot of that. And that to me, that for me, I do also write every day. Not always in the morning, but it's for sure sometime during the day. But for me, I think I get that same antsy feeling. If I haven't hiked in a week, I'm like, I got to get out. I got to go. I got to be out there. And then as soon as I'm out there, I just feel everything go, and then I can
Yes,
breathe again.
yes. I'm so with you on that one. Well, I know you have a cat. I have a dog, so I get to walk her every morning. That is non-negotiable.
Right.
Non-negotiable. We run, we walk, we have magic rocks up in the desert where we sit and meditate. And if I don't
Mhm.
do that, that's my start to the day, right? If I don't do that, yeah. So
Mhm.
that connection is so important to me. I think it's really important to us as humans, and maybe even more so as women, but um, to get that juice, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, ladies, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing some of your story, which is really fascinating. And I know there's a lot more stories in there over your however many years since you were 6. Oh, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And thank you, all my friends out in Heart and Hustle Land. Thank you for being here for yet another episode of Heart and Hustle with the visionaries, the healers, the movers, the shakers, and with me, Paulette Rees-Denis. And today with our guests, Audrey and Jennifer. So excited to have you here from both sides of the United States, sharing your stories and your books and your teachings and your ideas. And it's just so juicy, so inspiring, so awesome that you keep moving forward and you keep staying connected and you keep building community. And that's what we got to do. That's what we got to do.
Yep.
And share our words, share our own stories too, right? So
Yeah.
good. So
Mhm.
anyway, thank you, ladies, for being here, for sharing
Thank
space
Thank
with
you.
me.
you. Thank you for hosting.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
wonderful.
delicious. It's delicious. All
It
right.
is.
Until we meet again, my friends, many blessings. Love you
Mm.
all and see you
Thank
soon.
you. Thank you.